Get over it, they say. Get over it? Hi again, Caribbeanologists, and welcome back to another video here on Caribbeanology. Over the past week, I did a couple of videos, and one of them that I posted was about a recent situation with Mayor Bill de Blasio. I'll get to that in a minute. But let me just start by saying, and quoting one of my friends, or I should say paraphrasing one of my friends, you cannot get over something that is not over. I just want you to keep that in mind, okay? Anyway, just to recap, in case you did not see that video, which I did earlier this week, I think I titled it something to do with reparations. I just threw that in there, even though the conversation was not much about reparations. But Bill de Blasio made a comment and said something about 400 years of American racism on a very conservative Facebook page, picked it up and ran with it and tried to mock the mayor by stating that he does not know American history because the United States is only 244 years old. He said 400 years of American racism, so a lot of people just started freaking out. Well, I decided to go in just to clarify the matter, to explain how he could arrive at 400 years, which I thought I clearly did. I said nothing more other than explaining how he could have gotten 400 years of American racism. Anyway, the members in the group decided to jump all over me and started telling me blacks should get over it, referring to slavery. Because, again, I should go back a little bit. When I explained what I was talking about with 400 years of American racism, I was basically saying that just because the United States became a nation in 1776 on July 4th, almost 244 years ago, it does not mean that they started to engage in slavery on that date, as if nothing was going on for the 200 years prior in the 13 American colonies. So I explained it as such. That's all I said. I just gave an example, and slavery happened to be an example of that racism that I guess de Blasio was referring to. Anyway, that's all I said. I said nothing more. I didn't say anything about reparations. I didn't say anything about black folks being angry. I didn't go in on anyone. Yet the members in there came in and started telling me blacks should get over it. Blacks should just move on. Look at other groups like the Jews and the Chinese and what they went through, and they've gotten over it and they've moved on with themselves. And they started telling me that black people just want reparations, and start telling me about who had slaves from who didn't have slaves, and who had slavery, what other countries or empires had slavery, and so forth. I didn't bring any of that stuff up. Now, I was probably not going to do a video about this if it was not for the fact that after that, just by going through my daily news feed and everything, I still see white folks basically saying the same thing. Y'all just need to get over it. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, is this a theme with them? That you just need to get over it? That you just need to just get over it? And what comes to mind? What really comes to mind, it's this. I know of a person who went through some abuses as they were growing up as a child. And as they have gotten much older, they're an adult now, fully adult. A couple of times they have mentioned what they have gone through and the abuses that they went through. Now, it wasn't the most horrific of abuses, but there were abuses nonetheless. This person's parent turns around and tries to basically say, what are you complaining about? That wasn't abuse. And then points to other things and say, well, this was abuse over here. So you shouldn't be complaining about abuse because look at how bad this person over here had it. And it was at that point I had an epiphany, or I guess a lesson that I learned at that point. And that is, you cannot tell another person how to hurt about something, how deeply hurt they should feel about something when they have been hurt by something. You cannot minimize or diminish their pain because you want to make yourself feel better. You can minimize and diminish their pain and tell them how long they should grieve, how they should grieve, how much hurt they should feel, because we're all different. You may go through your situation and you may bounce back. You may meet some good fortune that helps you to alleviate some of that pain, or that help you to deal with some of that situation. But that's not the case for everybody. Collectively speaking, just because you as a white person, or anyone, or a Candace Owens, is going to point to a couple of successful black people and say, hey, what is the problem with the other millions of you? Look at Jack over here. Jack turned out to be successful. He went through all sorts of racism and everything. And look, he graduated from Harvard, and all those feel-good stories. That's all great. That's all fine and dandy. But collectively speaking, black people are still a marginalized group in this country and in other parts of the world, mind you. So getting back to what I was talking about with this whole get over it nonsense that I hear sometimes, you have to understand something here. I have white folks pointing to me and telling me slavery ended back in 1865 here in the United States. So they're telling me hundreds of years ago. Rightfully so. But again, it was not like when Lincoln issued his proclamation, his Emancipation Proclamation, or Proclamation of Emancipation. It was not as if like when he said it that day, all of a sudden all was fine in Americaville. That all of a sudden it was like, hey, you black folks, here is your 40 acres and a mule, and just enjoy your life. Sorry for the bad feelings and everything. Here, let's compensate you for all your losses. No. What followed was segregation. Racism, institutionalized racism, went on for another, roughly about another 10 decades, another 100 years. It went on. Basically, an institution was set up, or institutions were set up to keep black people in line, to keep them down, to prevent them from upward mobility, to prevent them from a lot of things, to buy into or to be a part of the big American pie. They weren't a part of that. And that is what segregation was basically all about. Okay, we weren't in shackles anymore, mind you. If black folks are not in shackles anymore, they weren't working on the plantation anymore, but in other forms of fashion, these things still continued on, where they did not have certain rights up to a certain point. So if you look at it, segregation ending back in the 1960s or late 50s or 60s somewhere, we're talking about just a mere 50 years ago. A mere 50 years ago. Where my parents were still alive. Or I should say, my grandparents were still alive. And my parents were young kids. So when they sit around and talk about, oh, you just need to just get over it. Again, it's one of those type of things that I personally believe it's like, look, don't bring that stuff up around here. Just get over it. Please, please. We don't want you to keep bringing that up. But it's not that we're always bringing it up. It's always that you guys are reminding us by doing certain things that you do toward black people. Now, I just need to stop here for a minute, because for the white folks who are watching this video right now, I'm not mad at you. I'm not angry at you. I want you to understand I'm not some sort of a black militant. You don't have to freak out. I don't hold any crazy ideas in my head about white people. I don't hate whitey. I'm not into all that nonsense, okay? I am not that type of person. I will get along with just about anybody. Anyone who knows me knows I will sit down and strike up a conversation with anyone. I treat people as they come. I don't sit down and like, well, they're white, I'm suspicious of them. I don't do stuff like that. But it does not mean that because that's the way I am, that does not mean that if I hear someone who is white saying some things that to me are offensive to black people, I am not going to speak about it. And this happens to be one of those situations where it's like, you guys need to get over it just to make you feel better. So you want to minimize, you want to diminish, you want to basically draw the fangs out of our pain. and turn around, that you can go ahead and feel better about yourselves. And know, and when I say better about yourselves, I'm speaking in a collective term. I'm not talking about individual white folks and so forth, because yes, I do realize that some white people basically hate the nonsense that they see their peers carrying on with. Their white people don't believe some of the things, some of the racist things that their peers believe in. I do realize there are white people here whose parents and grandparents fought in the civil rights, and even further back, who had nothing to do with slavery, may have been abolitionists for all we know. I do realize that. But in a collective sense, that is what I'm referring to. So it's not like you can tell us how we should hurt, how we should grieve, how long we should grieve, how long. When you realize, like I said in the very beginning of this, when you realize that it's not over, because our people are still being killed out here in the streets. There's still institutionalized racism all around the place. It hasn't gone anywhere. It may be latent in certain situations, but it has not gone anywhere. Almost every day you look through your news feed on Facebook and you find some example that reminds us that it has not gone anywhere. So here I wasn't going to do a video about this. But guess what? I go through my news feed and I see people talking about getting over it. Now here's something I want to point out. When the French lost the war against the enslaved population in Saint-Domingue, which we call Haiti today, when they lost that war, and needless to say, a lot of white French people or colonists who were living on in that country lost their lives. They were killed. They were massacred because the anger of 300 years of just crushing slavery just came out in the enslaved population that were there. They were like, you know what? No, we're taking this out on these people. And they did. There's no denying that. But after France lost that war, did France get over it? Did they just move on quietly in the night and said, all right, hey guys, you have your freedom. Sorry about the 300 to 400 years of what we did to you guys. We're sorry about that. Bye. Let's leave and pack up ship and go. No. You know what France did? Napoleon sent 4 battleships down into Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and basically had his soldiers march into the offices, if you want to call that, of the French leader at the time. I mean, the Haitian leader at the time. And basically told him, you better sign this right now. Sign this agreement right now that you are going to pay us back. You're going to compensate us for the loss of our colony. You're gonna compensate us for the loss of our labor, the free labor that we were getting. You're gonna pay us back for burning our cane fields, for burning down our plantations, and for killing our people. You're going to pay us back. And if you don't, so these 4 warships out here, we're coming back with a stronger force, unless he might have been bluffing, and we're going to re-enslave this population right here. The Haitian leader, realizing that they were a fledgling nation at that time, and realizing that France could go ahead and align themselves with the Americans and the British and the Spanish, even though they were enemies at that time. They could align themselves with them and come back and re-invade Haiti and just do some serious damage. So the Haitian leader at the time, I think it was Pierre Boyer, basically gave in to their demands. My point is, France did not just get over it and move on. They demanded and got indemnity for what they considered to be a loss of their colony. When slavery came to an end in the British Empire in 1834, there were British planters, British slave owners that looked around like, no. They went to the British government and said, no, you got to compensate us for this. You're ending slavery. You're ending our livelihood. We need that. That's what made us all this money. And you are now ending slavery and basically telling the slaves that they can, the enslaved population, that they can just walk off the plantations and they don't have to do this anymore, this free and forced labor that we've been doing for the past 300 years? No, you've got to compensate us. Did the British government look at them and say, nah, guys, you got to get over it. You guys are rich already. You have tons of money already. What compensation are you looking for? It's the right thing that we're doing in freeing these people from all these abuses and these atrocities that we, as a nation, as a kingdom, has engaged in and enforced over these past 300 to 400 years. No. Those British planters got millions of dollars in today's money for their loss. They didn't just get over it and walk away. So now, how come when black people raise this idea of reparations? I have my ideas about that, mind you. But when black people raise their idea of just equality, oh, get over it. What's your problem? What are you trying to get out of us? Oh, no. You shouldn't be getting this. Just get over it. Just move on. Other people have moved on. Why don't you do the same thing? This is the argument that they try to make. And another thing that they do, and when I say they, I'm speaking about white people collectively. Whenever they feel that black folks are agitating for change, and sometimes this agitation could come out in the form of violent protests, whether it's violence against other people or just violence of tearing up a place or whatever. It's like, what's the matter with them? Oh my goodness, they're so outrageous. They're a bunch of animals, as one person called the protesters and the rioters and the looters. What's their problem? Why are they carrying on in such a way? And they don't seem to understand or realize all the pent-up frustration that goes on there. Now, these are the very same people, collectively speaking, who, when they had issues with the black community, or they thought there were issues that they should have with the black community, they had no problems dropping bombs. Tulsa, Oklahoma. They had no problems burning down 35 blocks of black businesses and homes. They agitated for whatever change they wanted, which was to instill fear, of course. And they went out of their way to do whatever they had to do to make sure that they got their needs met. But when black folks do it, it's a problem. Calm down. And what they do, they point to people like Martin Luther King. Oh, look at that peaceful man over there. Look at how he marched and he just walked and spoke inspiring words. Why don't you guys follow his example? Yeah, we shot him. But why don't you guys go ahead and just follow his lead? Don't Malcolm X us with an AK-47 pulling your curtains trying to protect yourself. Don't bring that guy into the equation. Because, as one person said, you can't replace hate with more hate. And that is true, mind you. I can understand that as being true. But again, it's one of those type of things like, oh, you guys should be more forgiving. You should be this, you should be that. I'm not disagreeing with that, mind you. But again, it's one of those type of things when you're telling me to forgive you, and you're only saying it because you want me to, how should I put it? You want to continue what you want to continue doing. And just hope that I would just keep forgiving you for doing what you keep doing over and over and over again. Or that you can continue doing whatever you're doing while my back is turned, figuring that you can safely do it because I'm not a threat because I've forgiven you. No, we're not that stupid. Because that is exactly what I know a lot of them want to happen. Oh, just be forgiven. Please just forgive us. Meanwhile, I'll still have a racist system going over here with my cops. Oh, just be forgiven. Just be forgiving toward us. But no, I'm going to still make sure that I don't allow you to come into my neighborhood or don't give you a great interest rate like this other person over here. Just keep forgiving us. That is exactly what happens. And my whole point is this, or one of the ways I can express this is like this. I've always said in terms of religion, which kind of reminds me a lot of this. It's like you will have a minister with his hand on your shoulder and saying, hey, look up there in heaven. Look up there to your salvation. Meanwhile, his hand is in your back pocket, taking out money. And your eyes are looking up there like, yeah, boy, it's beautiful up there. Meanwhile, down here on the earth, his hands are in your pocket just taking out the money. And it's a similar situation to what I'm talking about right now. It's like, hey, just forgive us. Look at these model citizens like Martin Luther King or Jesus Christ, how forgiving they were. Don't you want to do the same thing for us while we continue doing the wrongs against you? No, it does not work that way. So again, going back to the very point that I've made at the very beginning, when I said that my friend said, you can't be telling people to get over something that is not over with yet. And when they say get over it, I know a lot of times they're talking about slavery. I understand that. And slavery, at least officially, on paper and by law, has been over with since 1865 here in the United States. I get that. So they're trying to tell you, get over slavery, as if there's been no effects of slavery that has gone on, continued on, and is still with us to this very day. That has not been addressed. That's why people are protesting right out here, right behind me. They're protesting because there's still injustices going on. And the more these protests draw certain things out, the more you realize how far this country has to go in terms of patching up that racial divide, that economic divide that seem to go hand in hand when it comes to the black community. So telling us to get over it is not cutting it. You got to come better than that. You've got to come and sit down at that table and talk about something that is really painful and listen to what we're saying. Feel what we're feeling in terms of some kind of empathy, instead of just like, oh, well, you guys should just get over it. Look at Jack over there. Jack, get over racism. Again, it does not work like that. So, if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, let me repeat again, I am not some type of militant. I don't hate white people. I don't go around believing white people were created in a lab somewhere or they're a bunch of Neanderthal. I don't follow all those nonsensical things. But I will tell you this much, though I'm not that way, you cannot step to me to tell me nonsense about the people who look like me and expect me to just sit by and like, oh yeah, you're right. Because as I sit here right now, there are racists among us. And that leads into a whole other thing that may be for a whole other subject. But I am from the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, where the majority of the population is black. And there are white people living in between us as a majority with racist attitudes, drop their racist nonsense, spill out their racism on Facebook pages that are dedicated to the Virgin Islands. They're there. They hide anonymously behind certain names or don't put up any pictures so we don't know who they are, but they're there. And when they put up their nonsense on Facebook or on social media, disparaging my people, where I come from, they again opening up those wounds and reminding us why we can't get over it. Because they keep reminding us that it's still there. So y'all gotta come better than this, man. Anyway, I'm gonna bring this video to an end. Again, as usual, I usually just say these things and do my videos without any scripts right now, at this moment. Most of my videos without any script. So there's a lot of times I'm gonna forget certain things. I'm gonna make mistakes because I don't go back and edit anything. I'm gonna make mistakes on years, dates, and so forth. Please forgive me for that. But I hope you got the gist of what I was trying to say in this video. Speaking about getting over it. Again, I wasn't going to bring something like this up. But here I am talking about something else entirely different. Just trying to set the record straight on something. Did not bring up anything or any grievance or whatever. But yet, I was told I had to get over it. And then I go to my Facebook page and looking through and seeing people on there talking about getting over a variety of things. Like these protesters need to get over it. We cannot continue to be dismissed just to make you happy. Caribbeanologists, thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please, I would love to hear your comments. So you can go down in the comment section, leave your comments. You can like this video. I would love if you do. But you can also dislike it. You have that right. But I would love you to share it. And I would love you to subscribe to this page, because more videos are coming. And believe it, they're going to get better over time. I have big plans for this channel. Just give me some time. For right now, you just have to look at my face and listen to my voice until I get to that point, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Until the next video, you guys take care. Hi again, Caribbeanologists. I just want you to just add one last thing in my video yesterday before my toddler comes over here. And that is the fact that when I mentioned about the French in the Haitian Revolution not getting over it, and the former slave planters not getting over it, the losers in all of that were, of course, the enslaved Africans. They were the losers. They walked away with nothing. They gained nothing. But of course, the French and those former slave owners, they were the ones who walked away with compensation. So when we're told to get over it, just simply understand that the white folks in the story are the ones who walked away with compensation for their losses. Meanwhile, the black folks in all of this walked away with nothing. Okay? So like I've said recently, I've put it in this way. While they went on to generational wealth, black folks went on to generational hell.